Shalom and welcome back. We are busy with our Proverbs 31 study and we are on verse 12. So I really hope that everyone has had a chance to watch verse 11 and that you're ready to go through this verse by verse study. And we are, like I said, verse 12. I am super excited to go through this today's verse because there is so much depth in it, and it's really opened up a lot of my eyes in a lot of aspects when it comes to the way we treat our husbands without even realizing it, and how we have learned behavior and how it affects our relationship. And sometimes we play this victim, not realizing that this learned behavior that we've seen our mothers do and even our grandmothers, and we do it with our husbands, and then we can't understand why we are following the same pattern as our parents. So let's jump straight into this verse. So verse 12 says, "She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life." So if we're going to have a look at this word do, it is the Hebrew word gamal, which means to treat a person well or ill. So this is a root word. It's literally to do something. It's to ripen, to deal bountifully, to serve. Now we'll see of the 37 times that this word is used, do, 10 of that times it's translated as wean or to be weaned. So that is the most that has been used. So, and you can go and have a look at that in Genesis 21:8, Psalms, and I've put a few of the verses there just for you to go and do deeper study into this word do. And if we go and have a look at the word good, which is the do good, we all know this word as tov, which is do good. But the interestingly one is graciously joyful. So to be graciously and joyful, kindly and kindness. So you can also see it's to do good, benefit, morally good. So if we summarize this to do him good means to wean, which like I said, the word is translated as wean. And if we're going to have a look at what wean means, it is to help someone to grow into maturity, to give bountifully, to serve them till they ripen. So that is what a mother does. We will nurture a baby. We will do him good by nurturing him, cuddling them when they need cuddling, picking them up when they're crying, feeding them, just loving on them until they mature. So we're giving them bountifully and serving them. A baby can't do anything back. You can't receive anything back from a baby. So you're constantly giving until they ripen. That is what weaning is. So how is it that we do this in a relationship? How do we do this with our husbands? We are not to treat them as babies. Even though sometimes we do feel, they say that when a man is sick, it's like they become children again. As women, we are nurturers. We are naturally nurturers, and that is, remember that whole. We shared on the group, this Proverbs 31 study group. We shared that whole video of give an example of a man as an umbrella. There's a purpose that Father has given for a man and a purpose that a Father has given for a woman. And this is what our purpose is to nurture, to do good, to bring that, whoever Father brings into our life, may it be our husbands, may it be our children, may it be people that we are ministering to. It could be younger women that Father brings onto our path, that we are supposed to do good to them, to bring them to the point of weaning them, to bring them to maturity, to feed them bountifully, to serve them until they ripen. And this is serving your husband, to do him good, to support him spiritually. It is not that you're, like I said, treating them like a baby. So what is this evil? So we're doing them good and not evil. This is to not be hurtful, to not grieve them or harm them, to not bring them calamity or displeasure. So you can go and have a look at all these words, but these are ones that I want to really focus on, is that bringing displeasure, calamity, or being hurtful. And we as women need to be very, very careful, because we are very verbal, and our words many times, and like we discussed in verse 11, our words can make or break. Our words, if we do not watch our words, are like those little foxes that are going to destroy our marriages. So how do we bring life? So this is to do them good and not evil all the days of their life. So this is, more than just a time period. This is sustenance. This is life-giving. It's to bring appetite to. So this is more than just what we understand of living. It is actually to bring that sustenance. And to understand what the meaning of sustenance is, I've gone to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and this is nourishment. This is exactly what Father does for us. He nourishes us with His word. And this is what we as women of valor are supposed to be. We are supposed to nourish our husbands. This is something that gives support, endurance, and strength. So I want you to pause and think, how are you being that sustenance to your husband? How are you giving him support spiritually, physically, emotionally? How are you helping him to endure trials and tribulations? How are you being a strength for him? And sometimes that strength and that support is being that quiet intercessor, to spiritually stand in the gap for him, and that's how you will nourish him. It doesn't always mean food. Yes, there is that good saying that says the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, but that is not what a woman of valor is. Yes, it is providing food and sustenance, but it's also that spiritual sustenance. So the woman of valor loves extravagantly and fearlessly all the days of her life. She nurtures others, particularly her husband and her family. And I want you to realize that this woman of valor, we are not to be focused on the outside world and our family is falling apart. Paul said it very well, where he said that it wasn't Paul. There's a saying that says charity starts at home. And that I think they get it from where Paul said that when you go and choose an elder, you've got to go and choose someone where you go and look first at their home. How is their relationship? How are their children? And so he was very particular when it was to coming to choosing elders. And I think that is a very good thing, to go and have a look at that, because how are we maturing? We are maturing. And you can see someone's spiritual maturity by looking at their home, by looking at their relationship with their husband, by looking at how their children are, and where the woman's focus is. She doesn't crave and seek more material things. She brings the resources she has at hand to fruition, even if the journey is long, hot, and dry. She does not compare her situation to other women via multimedia, imagining and wishing things were better. If we sit and wish that our husband was more loving, if we sit and wish that things were different, or that we had married someone else, and what happened to that old boyfriend at high school, or that, in university that you dated and you broke up, what's happened? How would have life been, And I think many people make that mistake where they go and troll on Facebook at old flames. And that is the most dangerous thing that a person can do. We need to be focused on our current situation, because Father can, even the mistakes that you have made, even if you did marry the wrong man, Father can turn that for the good. Father wants to, and I'll read from the book now, a quote, Robin, what she wrote here, which will explain a little bit more of what I've said. So if we go and have a look, I'm going to read now from anyone who's got the book. You can join in on page 36 till 37. So Robin writes here on page 36, personal happiness and gratification are often motives for seeking love in life, but happiness is the fruit or outcome of choosing to love. The difference in perspective is profound. The very idea of choosing to do good for the one we claim to love can be an alien concept in this age. Some think we are at the mercy of a mysterious force which has the power to control the quality of our most important relationships, causing us to fall in and out of love. It is typical to think it best to do him good when I feel like it, or when it ultimately benefits me, or until someone else with a better deal comes along. Now, she quotes here from Rabbi Yisrael, and I just thought this was a very good quote. Precisely at the moment when the excitement and euphoria of feeling of being in love begins to wane is the moment to hang in there, and invest more energy, effort, and time in making it work. At the moment when many people give up on a relationship, when I might say, this is not for me, that is exactly the moment to keep going and keep trying. I have to make it mine by digging deep into my spiritual center and reflecting on how I can change myself rather than changing the situation or my partner. The challenge is sent to me, not to break me, but to recreate me. We tend to compare ourselves and our relationship to those around us, and we sabotage our hope of true fulfillment. Comparison is the thief of happiness. I'll repeat that. Comparison is the thief of happiness. Our minds will create an illusion of perfection. We invent the ideal partner, fashioning him according to what we believe will satisfy our needs. The difference between reality and our projected image is the measurement of disappointment we experience. When we imagine a scenario that we assume is best for us and compare it to how we perceive present reality, the degree of variance between the imagined perfect life compared to our immediate circumstances prompts dissatisfaction. Imagine a world where instead of making mental lists of what we need from a partner, we make lists of what we can give. That is the world the woman of Valour chooses to live in. We don't want to risk personal pain, so walls are built to prevent ourselves from giving too much without return required to justify the emotional investment. But here's the thing, there's no intimacy without vulnerability. Vulnerability humbly gives the risks pain leading to love that chooses to do what is the best interest of the other person. Love is a verb denoting giving and risking. Now she quotes C.S. Lewis. She says, he writes the following, "To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will certainly be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping intact, you must give your heart to no one, not even to an animal. Wrap it carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid in all entanglements. Lock it safe in the coffin of your selfishness. But in the casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, unpenetrable, irredeemable, the only place outside heaven where you can be perfectly safe from all the dangers of love is hell." Unfortunately, many women have abandoned true femininity, which includes love in favor of fierce independence. They have believed the myth that they don't need anyone, least of all a man. They have been instilled with fear of trusting anyone or anything, especially love. A problem occurs when these same women crave unconditional love. The remedy is for these women to become the kind of partner they are seeking. The woman of valor loves extravagantly and fearlessly all the days of her life. She nurtures others, particularly her husband and family. She doesn't crave and seek more material things, but embraces the resources at hand and brings them to fruition, even when the journey is long, hot, and dry. She does not compare her situation to other women's, imagining it to be better. Fewer and fewer couples make it to the stage of deep and satisfying love and contentment because partners tend to jump ship when they feel they are not receiving their due from the relationship. The years of building, choosing, giving, and investing can lead to the very oneness we all crave. A person must be willing to resist the temptation to erect walls of self-protection, since they tend to create a prison instead of a fortress. Vulnerability and risk require humility. But how can one be a strong woman, unwavering in determination, to stand up in the injustice of those who would take advantage? Vulnerability does not mean to self-hate and enable a fool. Vulnerability means to make space within myself for another to truly love me. And our eternal bridegroom, Abba Father, never seeks our harm, but only our good. So I want you to now ponder on that. Are you building walls? Have you got walls up? And we all do. You know, we come from relationships. Unfortunately, we have been brought up in a world where it's okay to date, where it's okay to test the waters. And so we've all got these scars, we've all got these baggages, we've all got these walls up when we enter into a relationship. And things happen and we get triggered and those walls get built up even more. And that is something that affects your relationship. It affects your vulnerability with your husband. And then it even affects our vulnerability with Abba Father. If we can't be vulnerable with Abba Father, then we won't be as sensitive to the Holy Spirit, and we won't change or be willing to change as Father wants us to change. Now, another thing I want us to just understand, that when we have walls up, we tend to become manipulative because we want to protect ourselves. And in our marriages, men and especially women are more prone to this. We tend to start walking in witchcraft due to us not being able to bridle our tongues and bad-mouthing our spouses with friends or family. Women are to be submissive under our husbands, as men are to be the heads of the homes. Unfortunately, women tend to take over certain headship roles when we feel that men are incompetent or not doing the things the way we think they should be done. Now remember, the way that we sometimes want to take control because we think things should be done a certain way, the way we were brought up, the way it makes us feel comfortable, or makes us feel, we just got ideas in our head of how certain things must be done. And we need to remember that that is control. Our husbands have different ways of doing things. And it doesn't make it wrong, as long as the job gets done. A good example is packing the dishwasher. As a woman, I don't know, I've got a way of packing, because I've moved a lot in my life. I've got a way of packing the car boot. And you cannot fit a mouse in when I pack the car. My husband is very different. He doesn't do it like a Lego puzzle or a Lego building. He'll just pack it in, and I'll go, oh, but you can save so much space if you do that. Is it wrong the way he's done it? No. On my way of doing it, it's wrong. But I can cause issues by trying to control him, by letting him do it my way. So you see, little things like that can cause issues in your relationship that are petty. Instead of just letting him do it the way that he's doing it and let go. Now you're putting stress on yourself and your relationship for something silly as packing the car boot or packing the dishwasher. When we disagree with our husbands, who is the head of the house, we have to watch as the enemy uses our frustration, our wounds, our rejections, or our disapproval to pull us into a passive, aggressive witchcraft. And Satan is using us to do guerrilla warfare. Sorry, my tongue is tied. And guerrilla warfare is where you do things in the background. So you portray as like, oh, I love you and everything's fine. But in the shadows, you're hurling javelins of disapproval, slander, accusations, gossip, while publicly acting as though everything's fine and you're in agreement. So that is what witchcraft in the home is. And we've got to, as a woman, be very, very careful that we aren't doing guerrilla warfare. And another way that many women do this is basically you punish them. You didn't do what I wanted, so you're not getting sex. You didn't do what I wanted, so I'm not going to, you silently throw a little tantrum. It's that silent treatment until they give in to what you want. And we all fall prey to that. We all get guilty of this, and we've got to be very, very careful, because that is where the enemy gets a foothold. So witchcraft in the home, let me just share my screen here. So witchcraft in the home can look like this. Passive-aggressive behavior is a way of quietly subverting something or someone in the shadows behind the scenes. This is done while portraying an attitude of cooperation, but being stubborn, lazy, misplacing things on purpose, anger, gossip, manipulation, slander, or procrastination. And I want you to just stop and think. You might not do this all the time. It could be now and again where you've done this, where you'll procrastinate to make your husband late because you really don't want to go to something that he has arranged. That is a form of manipulation and a guerrilla warfare. So the woman of valor that we've seen so far is a woman who will treat her husband well by being a woman of morals, by not doing evil towards him, by causing him misery, injury, calamity, or distress. She will not use witchcraft or guerrilla warfare on him to get her own way. She will toil and work hard to bring him happiness with all her support, endurance, and strength. And remember, this is spiritual and physical. So these are a few questions that I have sent on the group that you can go and have a look at. It's just some things to ponder on. Go and share, write these down, questions that maybe stand out to you in your prayer diary. Go and write down these questions and ask yourself generally, and be genuine and ask Father, is there anything that you can improve on? Are you really supporting your husband the way you are supposed to? Are you nourishing him the way you are supposed to, physically and spiritually? Do you have any male or female friends that is bringing distress and anxiety on your husband because you're sharing more personal things with them or bonding better with your female or male friends? And it is not advisable to have the opposite sex friends while you are married, because it opens doors that we are not supposed to be opening. There are more things here that you can think of as well. Are you joyful towards your husband, and does he look forward to coming home? Many of us, last week we spoke about in verse 11 about a contentious wife. Are you happy when your husband gets home? Do you get up and greet him? Remember, some of us are privileged to be at home looking after the children while our husbands go and work. Yes, we work just as hard as our husbands, but do you greet him at the door joyfully? Make him get excited to come home? Do you build your husband up and encourage him? Just a little message a day saying, you know what, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for the sacrifice that you make for our family. You are loved. You are appreciated. I'm praying for you. Little messages like that can help your husband or encourage him so much during the day. Make a point of it, if not once a week, maybe a few times a week, to just send a random text message to your husband, just to say thank you, just to say you love him, just to highlight something that you appreciate about him. Ponder on the things that he does, no matter how small. Pushing the trolley, taking out the bins, picking up something at the shops after work for you on the way home. Those are little things that a man does. They are not naturally romantics, to go and pick up flowers, to, think of surprising you on a romantic date. That is not a man's natural instinct. And why? I don't know. Some men are more prone to that, but it is something that they can learn. And it is something that you can express and do that respectfully. I would appreciate it more if you could, take me out once a month on a date, or, be trying to be more romantic. Speak to your husband. Don't belittle him. Don't compare him with others. Men's egos are like little boys. You've got to be gentle. Think about if the roles were reversed. How would you feel if he was comparing you to other women and belittling you, even if it's in a nice way? Another question, do you have your priorities right? Is it Abba Father first, then your husband, and then everything else? I see too many relationships where women have their children, their parents, above their husbands. I know personally of a woman whose husband was ill, and she would go and tell everyone how she's feeding her poor people on the street. But her own husband was fell next to the toilet and was lying there for hours while she was feeding the people on the street. And she would have agitation and belittle him, because she was more wanting to be on the street helping the homeless and the druggies, instead of being home looking after her husband, who had been looking after her for years. That's a prime example of the priorities being wrong. It might seem good to the world, but her husband was struggling because she was now agitated that he was old and being a burden. Are you putting your children or career above your husband? I did touch on that already. So make sure that your husband isn't lacking emotionally and spiritually. Again, verse 11 we spoke about, is his heart safe with you? Can he speak to you? Has he spoken to you in the past where you just brushed it off? Are you wasting money on things that you shouldn't be? Now let's look at how does this apply to Abba Father? Are you being a good bride to Yeshua? Are you loving him above all else, even your husband and children? Are you vulnerable before Father, or do you have walls up and things you do not want to surrender? Are you a good steward of what Father has given you? And are you worldly minded or kingdom minded? These are all things I want you to ponder on this coming week. And only you can be honest with yourself. You can, share whatever you want, and you can portray to be this righteous person who's got your priorities right and look holy. But only you and Abba Father know the truth. And you need to go before Father and ask him, take these questions and ask him where it is that you need to improve to become more like the woman of valor. Last of all, I'm just sharing with you a few verses that you can go and meditate on. On the left, you'll see the verses of what a good woman is. And this is all from Proverbs. And on the right, unfortunately, there's all examples of what a bad woman is. Now, understanding what a bad example of a bad woman is helps you to then, change the way that you see things, and to go and see if you have got any of that in your life that you maybe need to surrender before Abba Father. So thank you very much for joining me on verse 12. I look forward to sharing verse 13 with you and growing more and more into the woman of valor and preparing to be the bride of Messiah. Thank you, ladies. Shalom, shalom.